On the morning of April 7, 1945, in a quiet room aboard a Japanese battleship anchored near the coast, Admiral Takashi Nakamura sat alone. The war had turned sharply against Japan, and the weight of impending defeat pressed heavily on his shoulders. Outside, the restless waves lapped against the hull, as if echoing the turmoil inside the Admiral's mind. The room was sparse, a desk cluttered with maps, a small lamp casting a soft glow on the scattered papers. Sunlight filtered through narrow portholes, catching dust particles that danced in the still air. Nakamura's eyes were fixed on a letter, his hands trembling slightly as he reread the lines that expressed his final thoughts. His uniform, once pristine and a symbol of honor, now seemed to carry the burden of impossible choices. The whispers of his officers, the quiet murmurs among the crew, all spoke of one thing: the end was near. In Japan, honor demanded a final act of ritual suicide to preserve dignity in defeat. Actually, at that moment, Nakamura made a decision he thought unavoidable. He reached for the ceremonial dagger, the blade sharp and cold in his grip. The silence deepened as he prepared for a ritual act that had defined generations of samurai and soldiers before him. Yet as the moments passed, doubt crept in, a whisper that grew louder inside his heart. The war was ending, but could death be the only answer? The responsibilities he carried, the lives of those still depending on him, held him back. Outside, the ship's engines hummed quietly, a reminder that the world moved forward even as he wrestled with his fate. The Admiral's choice, made in the solitude of that room, was about to change not once, but twice, setting in motion a story that defied expectations and revealed the complexity of honor, survival, and humanity in the final days of World War II. Admiral Takijirō Nakamura was a man shaped by the rigid codes of the Imperial Japanese Navy, born in 1890 into a family steeped in military tradition. His life was a journey through a nation rising and falling in the storm of global conflict. Trained at the Naval Academy, he rose steadily through the ranks, gaining a reputation for discipline and strategic thinking. By 1945, Nakamura commanded one of Japan's remaining battleships. Stationed off the coast near Okinawa, focal point of one of the bloodiest battles in the Pacific theater, the Japanese Navy, once a proud and powerful force, was now depleted, its fleet decimated, morale low. Nakamura's experience was marked by both tactical successes and harrowing defeats. He had witnessed the devastating losses at Midway, the relentless advance of Allied forces, and the relentless bombings that reduced Japanese cities to rubble. Through it all, he remained bound to the traditional values of honor and sacrifice. The culture around him was steeped in the Bushido Code, which taught that death was preferable to dishonor. For many officers, the prospect of surrender was unthinkable. Ritual suicide, seppuku, or similar acts were seen as the only way to preserve personal and national dignity when defeat was imminent. Despite this, Nakamura was known among his closest aides for moments of quiet reflection, a willingness to question the harshest doctrines when confronted with the human cost of war. His leadership was firm, but not without compassion, a balance rare in the increasingly desperate final months. On April 7th, as the U.S. forces tightened their grip on Okinawa and the war's end loomed, Nakamura faced a crisis of conscience. The expectations of his role demanded an ultimate sacrifice, yet inside, the conflict between duty and survival was intensifying. His officers watched, uncertain. Some urged him to follow tradition without hesitation. Others sensed the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. The decision before Nakamura was not just about himself, it symbolized the struggle of a nation grappling with an impossible reality. The Admiral's story, thus, was more than a tale of military command. It was a window into the human heart during war where honor, fear, hope, and despair collide. It was a moment suspended between the past and future, between ancient codes and the harsh truths of a world irrevocably changed. In the days leading to April 7th, 1945, Admiral Nakamura's world was shrinking. The battleship he commanded was anchored, largely inactive, a shadow of the fleet it had once led. Rumors of surrender and defeat permeated the ranks. The crew, many young men barely out of training, moved with a mixture of resignation and hidden fear. Nakamura's thoughts were a storm of conflicting emotions. On one hand, the unyielding sense of duty that had carried him through decades of service. On the other, a growing awareness that the old ways, rituals of honor and sacrifice might no longer hold the answers. The Admiral spent long hours poring over maps and reports, watching the tides of war sweep ever closer. He knew that the war was lost. The question was how to face that loss not only for himself, but for the thousands depending on his leadership. When he finally made his decision to commit ritual suicide, it was not a moment of rash despair, but one steeped in deep contemplation. In his mind, it was the way to preserve dignity, to accept responsibility without surrender. The preparations were made quietly. The ceremonial dagger was retrieved. The room arranged according to tradition. A letter was written in explanation to his family and officers, expressing regret and hope for Japan's future. Yet as the moment approached, a hesitation took hold. The finality of death clashed with the unfinished business of leadership. Nakamura realized that survival might be a different kind of a nearer chance to bear witness, to guide, to live through the nation's darkest hour. That hesitation grew until it became a decision. He would not go through with the suicide. Instead, he would live, carrying the weight of the war's consequences on his shoulders. This change of heart was not without consequence. Among his officers, it was met with a mixture of relief, confusion, and sometimes quiet disapproval. The rigid codes that had defined their lives did not easily allow for second chances. Nakamura faced the challenge of redefining honor in a time when defeat was imminent and traditional values were being tested. He assumed a role not of martyrdom, but of survival, and often overlooked in complex path. As days passed, the Admiral worked to maintain order and morale among the crew, preparing them for the inevitable while striving to protect what remained of their dignity. He became a figure of quiet strength, embodying a new form of courage that accepted reality without surrendering humanity. This transformation from planned suicide to living witnesser revealed the tension between duty and self-preservation. It challenged the idea that honor demanded death, offering instead a vision of endurance amid collapse. Admiral Takashi Nakamura's story stands as a testament to the human complexity behind decisions made in war, where the lines between courage, fear, and survival blur, and where even the most ingrained beliefs can change under the pressure of reality. In the days following Admiral Takashi Nakamura's nearest, the atmosphere aboard the battleship grew heavier, charged with a tension that went beyond the looming defeat. The impossible idea now took root not just in Nakamura's mind, but among a few close officers who quietly questioned the rigid code of honor demanding death over survival. Could living through defeat be an act of courage, or was it betrayal? The Japanese Navy was crumbling. The U.S. forces were advancing relentlessly, air raids pounding the fleet, and supplies dwindling. Amid this chaos, Nakamura's decision to live was seen as unorthodox, even dangerous by some. Yet it opened a path no one had dared tread openly, facing surrender, survival, and the possibility of rebuilding. To Nakamura, this was no longer a matter of blind obedience to tradition. It was about the lives still under his command, the countless men who looked to him for guidance in a world unraveling. The idea that death was the only honorable path suddenly seemed narrow and incomplete, but the stakes were high. Among his peers, whispers of dishonor circulated. Some officers prepared to enforce discipline in the old way, seeing any hesitation as weakness. Nakamura's impossible idea threatened to unravel the last threads holding the Navy together. The Admiral's inner turmoil mirrored that of his country, between centuries-old values and the brutal reality of total war. He wrestled with guilt, fear, and hope, knowing that choosing life meant defying expectations and risking alienation. Despite this, Nakamura began to act differently. He took steps to preserve his crew's morale, advocating for their safety over futile heroics. He sought to protect civilians and non-combatants caught in the crossfire. His leadership shifted from fatalistic acceptance to cautious pragmatism. This transformation was far from easy. Battles raged, and the shadow of defeat loomed large. Nakamura's position was precarious. His choice seen by some as a betrayal of honor, by others as a necessary of the impossible idea that survival could be honorable was unfolding in the most unlikely place, the heart of a collapsing empire. It challenged the very foundation of what it meant to serve, to lead, and to live with the consequences of war. As April deepened, the battleship became a microcosm of the greater struggle engulfing Japan. The air was thick with tension. Every moment was laced with fear and uncertainty. Nakamura's choice to live, to reject ritual suicide, was now public knowledge among his closest officers and crew. The drama unfolded quietly but intensely. Some officers confronted Nakamura, demanding explanations. How can honor survive without sacrifice? They asked, their voices edged with anger and disbelief. Nakamura listened, his expression calm but resolute. He replied, "Honor is not in death alone, but in the courage to face what comes after. Our duty is to protect our men, to endure for our nation's future, even if that future is uncertain." These words, radical in their context, rippled through the ship. For many young sailors, they were a spark of hope amid despair. For others, a source of confusion. The days grew darker as U.S. naval and air forces intensified their assaults. The battleship shook under bombardment, fires erupted nearby, and casualties mounted. Nakamura moved through the ship with steady determination, calming fears, organizing defenses, and caring for the wounded. At one harrowing moment, a direct hit near the command room threw officers to the ground. Amid the chaos, Nakamura remained focused, rallying his crew to keep fighting, keep surviving. Despite the pressure, he refused to resign to fatalism. Where tradition demanded surrender to death, Nakamura sought a path through survival and responsibility. His leadership became a testament to resilience choosing life in the face of inevitable defeat. The conflict between old values and new realities played out in hushed conversations and intense moments of crises. Some officers resigned, unable to reconcile with Nakamura's vision. Others embraced it, finding strength in the possibility of survival. When the order to abandon ship finally came, Nakamura was among the last to leave. His survival was not just physical, but symbolic, a living witness to a war's end and the uncertain dawn that followed. This moment, where suicide was chosen, then rejected, and life embraced, captured the profound human struggle at the heart of World War II, a war not only of weapons, but of wills, beliefs, and the courage to change. After Admiral Takashi Nakamura survived what was meant to be his final act of honor, the ripples of his decision extended far beyond the battleship. His choice to reject ritual suicide and live through defeat challenged deeply ingrained notions of honor and duty within the Imperial Japanese Navy and within Japanese society at large. The war ended just weeks later, but Nakamura's survival became a symbol of a painful transition. Japan faced devastation, occupation, and a long road to recovery. His story embodied the struggle of a nation forced to reconsider its values in the face of overwhelming loss. For many, Nakamura's decision was controversial. Some saw it as dishonorable, a betrayal of centuries-old traditions. Others understood it as a courageous act of humanity, a refusal to let rigid codes obscure the cost of war or the value of life. Historically, this moment reflects the tension between ancient customs and modern realities. It underscores how individual decisions can mirror the larger societal shifts brought on by war. Nakamura's choice highlighted the need to reconcile honor with survival, courage with compassion. His survival also influenced how Japanese veterans and society processed the war's aftermath. The story of an admiral who almost took his life but chose to live reminded many that courage can take many forms and that living to rebuild can be a form of honor itself. This episode serves as a lens into the complexity of war, where black and white definitions of right and wrong blur under pressure. It invites reflection on how tradition and change collide when nations face catastrophe. Admiral Takashi Nakamura's legacy is not one of battlefield glory or heroic sacrifice. Instead, it is a legacy of human complexity, a man caught between duty and doubt, tradition and transformation. His story reminds us that history is shaped not only by grand victories or defeats, but by the intimate, often painful decisions individuals make in times of crises. It challenges the simplistic narrative of honor as only tied to death and shows that survival can carry its own profound meaning. Nakamura lived beyond the war's end, witnessing the rebuilding of Japan and the painful reckoning with its past. His choice to embrace life amid collapse embodied a quiet form of courage that few stories capture. For modern audiences, his journey offers a powerful human note that strength often comes from the willingness to face fear, to change course, and to bear the burden of survival when all seems lost. In a world still wrestling with the legacies of conflict, Nakamura's story urges us to look beyond black and white judgments. It invites empathy for those caught in impossible situations, and respect for the complexities of human choice in war. The Japanese admiral who committed suicide and then changed his mind stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even in the darkest hours. This is the history of World War II. Whoever oppresses the innocent is an oppressor. Neither the earth belongs to this oppressor, nor does the sky belong to him. We stand now and forever with the oppressed. This is WW2 Files. See you in the next one.